Welcome to Eye Level to High Level, where real talk meets real results. I'm Jimmy Rios, and each week we break down the mindset, money moves, and strategies you need to elevate your life and business. Let's level up. Hello, this is Jimmy Rios. Welcome to our inaugural first podcast from the Eye Level to High Level, where cash meets charisma. And today I have my CFO, Chris Vail, who's going to be joining us. We're going to be having a lot of fun today. We're going to talk about a few things that is going to introduce who we are, what we do. We're going to talk a little bit about finances and what is the Eye Level to High Level program. A lot of good things. We're going to try to wrap up in a very short period of time, but have a lot of fun while we're doing it. So, Chris, how are you doing?
I'm great, Jimmy. Thanks for asking, and really excited about our first podcast, hopefully of many, and I really look forward to providing information to all those who can really learn how important the world of business funding is and really how to benefit from it.
Definitely, and I think it's important to educate a lot of the people that are listening. I mean, we're talking about Rios Business Advisors and Rios Business Funding as a different type of company, and I wanted to talk a little bit first about who we are and how we came about, and then we'll get a little bit more granular with what we do and educate on that end. But to start off, Rios Business Advisors and Rios Business Funding started off about 23 years ago. It was something that I had as a first generation Colombian American from parents that were entrepreneurs and immigrants from Colombia. I saw that I saw their entrepreneurial spirit, but they were always asking me for help and needing different things as I was growing up. And as I got into consumer finance and lending, and I started working with a lot of families that were Latino, and they started having the same needs, and I felt like I was that kid again that was having to be there for them and helping them, and I started having to help them in different areas. It wasn't just lending, it was credit, it was insurance, it was mortgages, cars. How can you help me with my business? How do I get that set up? And I started wearing a lot of hats and putting things together just to help one individual. But this was in the time where we didn't have SEO marketing. We didn't have all those, things that we have now. And so people depended on that help to get the answers they needed and to get the solutions that they were looking for. And I became very quick in learning how to help people in that regard. It wasn't always, just on the lending side. I think everything kind of morphed and became a one-stop shop over time before there was a one-stop shop, just from the necessity to help individuals. And I felt kind of a responsibility to the community, and that when I was working for corporate America, there wasn't a lot of leeway on what I can do to help them. It was like, this is it. This is how it is. I'm sorry. But that kind of led me to want to start my own business, because I said, well, if I started my own business, then maybe I'll have more leeway and being able to help them. Maybe I'll have some more control, right? And it took me a long time to really figure it out. And doing the things we do now, it became my kind of a building an ecosystem of financial services over time that led to the Eye Level to High Level program and how it's devised and how we built it. But it was something that I believe wholeheartedly that we have to have the law of reciprocity in everything that we do. And when we help others, we help ourselves. And I think, for me, that was a very big thing. I wanted to see others succeed. Obviously, if others, I have a motto that says we're your partner in progress. So if I can see you progress, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to progress as well. And there's no better feeling in helping others than seeing them achieve a new heights in whether it's personal development in their finances, helping them get their first house, achieving success with their business, and managing how that looks. There's a lot of great feelings in helping people get there. So, we talked about a little bit about RBA and RBF, Rios Business Advisors, Rios Business Funding. Tell us, Chris, just a little bit from your time being with us, what makes this company different from all the other companies out there doing, loans or financing or insurance, real estate? Tell the community that's listening what makes us a little bit different.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jimmy. So I've been doing this off and on as an entrepreneur since 1996. So I've definitely been in the game for a while, different industries, definitely on the business funding side, the lending side. And what was so apparent to me when I had the opportunity to come on board with Rios Business Advisors was not only were they doing something different, but they were doing something different in the way that ultimately was going to help everybody, right? And we talk about, a lot of times, changing the industry or disruption being a bad thing, but in all honesty, this is a good thing, and you'll find out more about that in future episodes. But to answer Jimmy's question, what really makes us unique is we focus on a type of funding known as non-recourse funding. And a lot of people don't understand what non-recourse funding is. So just to point out the, quick definition of that is basically it's a type of funding that does not require you as the borrower, the small business owner, to be responsible for paying that back, number one. And number two, it's also able to be done, this type of funding that does not incur any future debt. And those two things to me are incredibly important because of where we are as an economy now, where we are as small business owners, constantly trying to look for that funding when needed to be able to scale and grow. And unfortunately, a lot of times they're just not able to get that. And what happens is they get stuck, right? And either they get stuck where they have to incur more debt just to be able to survive, or unfortunately, if they're not able to continue, unfortunately, they would have to close the doors. And so, as Jimmy mentioned earlier, in terms of the education concept or component, we definitely really want to change the way that small business owners think, number one. And why that's important is when you're starting a business, you're focused on starting that business, that you have a lot of things that have to get set up, employees and taxes and payroll and a lot of those things. But most importantly, when you're starting your business, obviously you need to generate those clients or get those services signed up for, whatever it may be, so that obviously the company can start money. Excuse me, can survive. But what if we were able to get money up front for the small business owner so that when they were making their purchases or when they're making their decisions, they were actually making them based on value and not more based on desperation of just trying to survive. And I think that if we're able to change that mindset in the small business owner, number one, and number two, be able to show them the power of how we're able to generate this non-recourse type of funding for the client, what it does is it puts their business in really a position of strength pretty much the whole time that they're growing, because now they have that fallback if they need to, where they're not relying just on how many clients am I going to sign up or how many services am I going to sell. They have that funding up front, so it allows them to say, hey, if I want to scale my business the right way, it's going to cost this much, and now I have that funding up front to be able to do that. So it's constantly putting them in a position of strength. But most importantly, it's doing it without incurring any further debt or incurring any type of debt at all. And I don't think that small business owners really understand that until they realize when they're in that debt hamster wheel, how to be able to get out of it. And once we're able to help them get out of it, it just opens the doors for so many of them. So, that's kind of a roundabout answer.
Yeah.
Hopefully it helps to clarify a little bit, but those are really the two most important things that excites me every day that when we're able to talk to clients. and not only help them to be able to get the funding they need initially, but then to be able to grow that funding so that they're always in that position of strength, as I previously mentioned.
In 20 years plus of being an entrepreneur, I ran across a lot of businesses that I started and failed because I didn't have a blueprint for success. I didn't have a lot of the tools that I needed to be successful. And the barriers of entry were usually money, right? There was always a barrier of entry because if I had X amount, then I could get my marketing done, or I could get the equipment I needed, or the people to delegate tasks and have a sales force. So it always seemed like I was chasing my tail in trying to find the holy grail to the solution, right? I had these things, these thoughts and ideas in my head of how I was going to be successful, and I ended up in 20 years failing at a lot of these things because I always ran into the same problems, right? The money problems, or I would get the funding and then something would happen, right? Like pandemic, or something like
Right.
2008, or just life in itself happens. And so there was never a third hand that could come in and help me kind of sweep these problems or be able to keep me afloat. The burden of debt was always so heavy on my shoulders. It caused a lot of friction because if I couldn't make the business work, then I had to go back to work in corporate America while I figured out how I was going to fix the problem of my business. And many of us find ourselves in the conundrum, right, where we're having to go back and forth, and not really do our business 100%. And it's mainly because of money. Am I correct in saying that? Have you ever had experiences like that in your own life?
Yeah, I mean, everything that you said is absolutely correct. Again, kind of the blueprint when somebody wants to start a business is, they start their business really for two reasons, right? Either one, they're working for somebody that they feel they can do a better job on their own, so they want to create their own company, or they believe that they have a service or product that they want to bring to the market, and to be able to be successful in that case. But when you look at the first way, they don't know about all the little things behind the scenes when they're, running that business until they do it on their own. And sometimes that can become overwhelming, number one, because now their focus is being taken away from really why they started the business themselves, right? And so the more that they're getting pulled away from, setting up those taxes or having to hire employees or whatever it may be, it a lot of times takes them away from being successful at what they're doing. Now, on top of that, having to be able to make sure that they generate enough income for their company to be able to survive, to pay their employees, to be able to grow, that's just another added burden on them, right? And then so what happens if they're not able to do that? Then they have to try to go borrow money, or they have to,
Mm-hmm.
put themselves in debt, to try to survive. And unfortunately, a lot of times, most small business owners really don't understand the power of business credit and when it's used, or business funding when it's being utilized the right way. And what I mean by that is a lot of times they wait until they're desperate and then they try to go after funding. And then for the most part, a lot of times they're unfortunately declined, or they're not able to qualify, or, there's a whole variety of reasons why. But the bottom line is they're not getting the funding that they need.
Right.
And as I mentioned earlier, they're either having to stay in that debt hamster wheel or even increase that debt, which again just becomes a tremendous burden on them as a business owner themselves. And now they're making decisions based on desperation, not based on what they need to be able to grow and thrive. And so the other issue is that when you're talking about money, you don't want money to have to be the driving force of why you're doing your business, right? If you do your business the right way and you work your plan and you plan your work, I mean, you've all heard that cliche, the money's going to come. You're going to be successful. But when you're having to make those decisions based on desperation, because, instead of paying, $3,000 for this website that's going to get this great lead coming in, that's going to help buy your service. Well, because you don't have that money, you maybe only are able to afford the $500 website. And then it's going to be even harder to be able to generate that lead that you're able to do that. So those purchases you're making are based on desperation, not based on value. And that's why knowing about and being educated on, number one, the strength of business funding the right way, and number two is the power of non-recourse funding puts that business owner in such a position of strength, because now they're able to make those purchases based on value. They're able to be able to focus on why they started their company in the first place, was to bring that product to the market, or to bring that service to the market, or to do a better job than what they were doing as a W-2 employee, and becoming their own small business owner, and then eventually also becoming an investor, and kind of the right side of the quadrant, as most people have read with Robert Kiyosaki's best-selling financial book. And so once you can get on that side, it also, the more that people are able to help you, the more that you want to help them. And so the other thing that I really look at, the ability of what we're able to offer with our non-recourse types of funding, is really, it's a gigantic pay it forward, right? And the more people that we help, they're able to help other people, and those people are to help other people. And ultimately, that not only changes the small business environment as a whole, makes people more positive, makes them more happy, makes the environment better, the economy, society. I mean, so it just becomes a giant ripple effect. And you don't realize how one little thing, like a non-recourse type of funding, can really ultimately change so much for so many people.
Right. I was thinking about the name eye level to high level. I mean, it rhymes, it's cool, but what 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 is how did that name come about? What is the meaning behind this concept, eye level to high level? Can you elaborate a little bit about how that became our focal point in what we do?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Jimmy. So eye level to high level is really where um, Rios Business Advisors with its clients are able to take a very high level of finance that would typically be reserved for clientele that would really have to have large liquidity, at their disposal, or things like that, to be able to participate in some of these non-recourse type funding elements that we're able to offer our clients. And because we're able to take that process and bring it down to the everyday small business owner, that's really what we call kind of that eye level, right? So we're bringing a very eye level, or excuse me, a very high level down to that eye level, which we believe is able to, which we believe that every small business owner has the ability to be able to benefit from that. And then ultimately that puts them on a higher level, which allows them to scale and grow their company, and be in a position of strength.
And that's important because I mean, when we talk about eye level to high level, there's a lot of people that I guess subconsciously don't want to venture into owning a business because of fear. I think fear holds a lot of people back. But even if you own a business, you have fear of the unknown, because what you don't know, you don't know. So,
Right.
the importance of having professionals and mentors that can be on your team, right? That can help elevate you to that next level of 20 plus years of experience between what me, you, and Brian, our Brian Fontenot, our other partner, bring to the table. You can't find that everywhere. I wish I had 20 years ago somebody that would have said, hey, Jimmy, don't do this, or think about this, or let's look at this blueprint, or this allocation of funds diagram, to be able to see how the money's going to be spent, to be able to make better, more informed decisions. I wish that more people had that, but many times the cost is so expensive. If you go to talk to an attorney, how much do they charge you per hour? What is a company like Rios Business Advisors and Rios Business Funding charge to do something like this, to help you get to the next level and go to the high level of finance?
No, and that's a great point. Is typically when you're talking about an advisory company or consulting, or something like that, yeah, they require either a retainer, or monthly payments, or whatever it may be. And you're right, they're not cheap. And one of the features that I think makes Rios Business Advisors stand out is we don't have upfront costs, right? We don't charge anything upfront. when we're able to help our clients obtain funding from a variety of different sources, whatever that may be, and continue to grow from there, once they're able to acquire that funding, then we charge a small fee based on that, which is how we're able to, which is how the company is able to make its revenue. But outside of that, just to be able to get started or just to meet with us or just to have that initial conversation or to move forward or whatever it may be, there's absolutely no cost at all to be able to get started with the processes that we offer.
And I think some of the biggest problems we have out there, talking to a lot of business owners, is that they go to their bank and they try to get funding and then they get declined, right, for many various reasons. And SBA, as another outlet, sometimes is outside of the reach because they're not structured correctly or their finances aren't there. So there's a lot of different variables that make getting approved for a loan very difficult or unattainable. From your experience and seeing what we've done, how can we help people of all types, even if they don't have an established business, or even if they don't have their credit or their financials? What's been your experience with how we develop and approach a challenge like that?
Yeah, so I mean, first and foremost, one of the other downsides to, if you're trying to get financing through the SBA is if you're declined, it could be something simple, like you mentioned. It could be, something in the paperwork or some mistake made or whatever, and which could easily be corrected. The problem is once you're denied, you have to wait a certain time period, usually 45 to 90 days, before you can even apply again. And in some cases, if you're really counting on that money, you can't wait that long. And unfortunately, either you have to go borrow money from somewhere else or, unfortunately close your doors. And we certainly don't want that to happen. And so what makes us a little bit unique is in terms of business funding itself, you know, we're like any other company out in the industry that provides funding. But the difference is that when you're working with one company that may be providing, this type of funding or another company that's providing this type of funding, we're able to take all different types of abilities to get funding for that client and interject those in whatever is best for the client. So what I mean by that is this is really not a program. This is more of a process. And the reason why we call it a process is because every client has their process customized to what they're trying to accomplish, right? What their goals are, what their needs are, what they need right away or things like that. So we're able to do things like traditional business funding or possibly pulling equity out of your property or investment or 401k or an IRA or stocks and bonds or crypto or pretty much anything that you could think of that you may have an asset that we can actually tap into to be able to get that funding out to be able to begin the process. Whereas with the other companies, once you get that funding, that's done, right?
That's
You
done.
have
Yeah.
it may be a loan, it may be a credit card, it may be maybe a line of credit, something like that. But number one, you have a time period to pay it back. You have a monthly payment that's normally typically associated with that. And then obviously you're going to have a debt that's attached to that, whatever that interest rate will be.
Right.
Now, yes, again, we can do those same type of elements that any other company does, but this is the beginning for us, not the ending. So what we're able to do is we're able to take that funding and then we're able to put it into the high level process, which generates that non-recourse funding, which I'm sure we'll talk about in the different episodes. But it's more of the end of the beginning, not the beginning of the end, where that's what it is for most other clients.
So it becomes all these years, everything was very transactional in what I did. It was like I would close a deal and then I was off to the races to get the next deal. Very little thought went into the success of what was done with that client, whether it be buying a house or helping them with their business. It was just very transactional based. What I'm hearing in what we're doing is building a relation, right, in relational business funding, because now it's not just giving them a loan to get a loan. We're really building a blueprint for success inside of helping them, right? Because from what I've
Right.
seen, an individual comes to us with a necessity, a need, and we were able to provide that. But because we like to say, well, let's go slow to go fast. Let's take our time and build this out so we can show you what this is going to look like, not just on getting the loan. Getting the loan is one step, but what if I showed you how in the next 6 months to a year, we're going to pay off the debt. We're going to put this money to work in your favor. We're going to help grow your business, right? We're going to help mitigate and minimize taxes, right? Get rid of the burden of debt. Look at other parameters like possibly your business credit, your personal credit, your budget, right? What are some of the things that you're needing as an individual, right, to be able to succeed? So it becomes more than just one transaction. Inside of this gamut we're talking about is a lot of different pieces, and we're working with that individual to meet and try to get all those pieces covered, right? So I love that. Tell us a little bit. I know we've had a lot of things happen in the world of, and we're not going to get into politics, but there has been, things happening in the news, right, with tariffs, and how has that affected the economy and our business model? And have you seen an uptick in clients needing help because of what's happening in the news?
Yeah. So, first and foremost, obviously we know what's going on with the tariffs and the financial turmoil that's going on and the government layoffs and things like that. And, we all sympathize with all that, obviously. And let's take it from our existing clients, right? Our existing clients, are obviously concerned, right? As any client would be. But after we show them, where we are with the process and how those processes are working, they're much more comfortable with being okay in the position that they're at now. Not only that, but also feeling that they're actually going to benefit, from it moving forward. As far as like new clients coming in and speaking to us for the first time, obviously that's a big thing on their mind. And so again, when we're able to discuss that with them, we're able to show them how the process works and things like that through our program overview and our explainer videos and things like that. Again, you know, something in the financial world is always bad, right? I mean, literally every day, every week, every month, every year, something, this recession is going to happen, or this, catastrophe is going to happen, or this, market is imploding, or whatever it is. And yet, at the end of the day, if it's done right, clients are still able to benefit. And I don't mean benefit on the back of somebody's detriment. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that the way that we structure our process and our funding elements, from the non-recourse side, again, number one, we're doing that without increasing any burden of debt, right? But number two is, again, whatever that funding element is that we're able to get started, just like any other traditional funding, typically that's where it ends with anybody else, right?
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier. But with us, as we mentioned earlier, it's the beginning, right? It's the beginning of not only moving into a process of whether it's increasing, their business line of credit, or increasing their type of investments or whatever it is from a non-recourse standpoint, which again, I'm sure all of this will be explained in further episodes. But we're also always looking for ways to help the client be able to maximize what they have, right? So what I mean by that is we've developed passive income streams that they're able to actually make their money with the money that they're generating, right? So
Wow.
that, yeah, they may get it, they may have a line of credit or something like that. And now they're going to be like, okay, what do I do with it? Well, instead of it just kind of sitting there doing nothing, we're going to help them put that money to work. Number one, where they're able to generate a nice passive income return on investment, but B, they're able to help other clients that normally wouldn't be able to get into the process initially on their own, right? But excuse me. So as I mentioned earlier, it's that gigantic pay it forward model that we're always stressing and we're always pointing towards.
Right.
Um, so, yes, people are concerned. Yes, they bring it up, but we're very confident in the way that we're able to show them what we're doing with the process, how it's working, how it's worked in the past through other difficult times. and still come out ahead, that they always have a good feeling moving forward.
Man, you hit a lot of gems today, and I know that we're going to be talking a lot more in future episodes. I really love what you said, though. I think there's a lot of great things here to expand on. Thanks, Chris, for coming out today and being a part of this great show. And thanks for everybody for tuning in to the Eye Level to High Level podcast. If you're ready to rise above the average, subscribe, share, and follow us for more ways to take your grind to greatness. Until next time, keep pushing higher. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in to Eye Level to High Level. If you're ready to rise above the average, subscribe, share, and follow us for more ways to take your grind to greatness. Until next time, keep pushing higher.